Imagine for a moment that you are in the middle of a great storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds against the earth, and the sky is dark with uncertainty. Everything in you wants to run, to fix, to fight. But what if the safest thing to do is to stand still? We are taught that action is strength, that movement means progress, and yet sometimes the greatest act of faith is not in our striving, but in our stillness. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not speaking of stillness as laziness or apathy. I do not mean sitting with folded hands while the world falls apart around us. No, this kind of stillness is something different. It is the quiet confidence of a soldier who knows reinforcements are on the way. It is the trust of a child who, though lost, knows that his father is searching for him. It is the deep breath before the breakthrough. And yet, in our darkest hours, we ask, why is nothing changing? Why do I feel alone? But here is the mystery. Motion is not always the proof of presence. The most profound works are often done in silence. A seed does not break the ground with noise. The tides do not rise with shouting. And just as the unseen roots grow deep before a tree ever reaches upward, so too does the unseen hand work in our struggles long before we see the outcome. Some of you may be facing storms so great that even hope feels distant. The weight of unanswered prayers, of trials without explanations, may press against you like an ocean tide. But listen closely. What if the very silence you fear is not the absence of help, but the preparation of something greater than you can now understand? Be still now. The movement you seek is already unfolding. The answers you long for may not come as thunder, but as a whisper. And when the storm clears, because it will clear, you may just look back and realize that even in your hardest moments, you were never truly alone. Stillness is often misunderstood. In a world that glorifies movement, achievement, and busyness, the idea of being still can seem passive, even weak. We are taught that action is power, that solving problems requires effort, and that if we are not constantly moving, we are falling behind. But there is a kind of stillness that is not idleness, not resignation, but something much deeper. A stillness that is rooted in trust. It is the kind of stillness that does not mean giving up, but rather surrendering to something greater than ourselves. To understand this, consider how nature operates. The sky does not force the sun to rise. The ocean does not struggle to meet the shore. There is a quiet rhythm to creation, a silent trust in the order of things. Yet, when faced with struggles, our first instinct is often to act, to fix, to control, to force an outcome. We fear that if we do not, everything will collapse. But true strength is not always found in effort. Sometimes, it is found in the restraint to wait, to trust that things are working in ways we cannot yet see. Imagine a farmer planting a seed. He does not dig it up every few hours to check if it is growing. He does not shout at the soil, demanding results. He knows that beneath the surface, in the darkness, something is happening. He waters it, tends to it, but he does not force it. He is still because he trusts the process. Yet, in that stillness, his faith is not inactive. He prepares for the harvest even before he sees it. That is the essence of trust. It allows one to remain still, not out of hopelessness, but out of confidence. Many of life's struggles feel like waiting in the dark. When answers do not come, when pain lingers, when the weight of uncertainty presses against us, the temptation is to panic, to force things, to try to control what is beyond our reach. But what if the very act of stepping back is the key to something greater? What if the need to solve everything is sometimes the very thing that keeps us from the solution? There are moments in life when our efforts do nothing but tire us. We wrestle with questions, fight against circumstances, push and pull against things we do not understand. Yet, we find no peace. This is because there are battles that are not meant to be fought with our hands but with our hearts. Strength is not always measured in struggle. There is a power in quiet confidence, in knowing that what is meant to be will unfold in its time. Consider a storm. The wind thrashes against the trees, the waves crash against the shore. And yet, at the center of it all, in the very heart of the storm, there is a stillness, the eye of the storm. It does not panic, it does not move, it remains untouched by the chaos around it. This is the kind of stillness that trust creates, a stillness that does not deny the storm, but does not fear it either, a stillness that understands that no storm lasts forever. The greatest tests of trust often come in silence, when doors do not open, when prayers seem unanswered, when the road ahead is unclear. But silence is not emptiness. The roots of a tree grow in silence. The stars shine without sound. A masterpiece is crafted in quiet patience. Just because we do not see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Trust is believing in what we cannot yet see. It is the choice to rest in the knowledge that we are not alone, that there is a purpose beyond our immediate understanding. Stillness is not weakness, it is courage. It is the ability to stand firm when everything around us pushes for action. It is the decision to remain steady, not out of fear, but out of faith. And in that stillness, we find a strength that does not fade, a peace that does not waver, and a trust that carries us through even the darkest of times. Struggles often make us question everything. When life becomes difficult, when plans unravel, when pain lingers longer than we think we can endure, it is easy to feel abandoned. We wonder why things are not changing, why our cries for relief seem to echo back in silence, why the burdens we carry feel too heavy to bear alone. The temptation is to believe that difficulty is a sign of distance, that struggle means we have been left to fend for ourselves. But this assumption, though natural, is far from the truth. Struggles do not mean abandonment. Rather, they often mean transformation. Think about the process of refining gold. It does not reach its purest form until it passes through fire. The intense heat removes the impurities, allowing the true beauty of the gold to emerge. Yet, in the midst of the fire, if gold could think or feel, it might wonder why it is being put through such pain. It might assume that it has been cast aside, that the fire is a punishment rather than a process. But the fire is not neglect. It is refinement. The one who refines the gold does not abandon it in the heat, but watches carefully, knowing exactly when to take it out, ensuring that it becomes what it was always meant to be. Life's struggles function in the same way. When we go through hardships, it is easy to believe we have been forgotten. But what if the very struggle is shaping us into something greater? What if, instead of being proof of abandonment, it is evidence of preparation? A seed, when buried in the ground, is surrounded by darkness. It might seem as though it has been discarded, lost beneath the soil. But in that hidden place, something powerful is happening. The roots begin to grow. The transformation begins, and in time what was buried breaks through the surface, stronger and fuller than before. Struggles often lead to growth that comfort never could. A life without difficulty may seem desirable, but it would also be a life without depth. Strength is not formed in ease, it is formed in resistance. A tree that faces strong winds develops deeper roots. A muscle that is stretched and torn grows stronger. A mind that wrestles with challenges becomes wiser. If struggles were a sign of abandonment, then every person who has achieved great things would have been forgotten. Yet history tells us otherwise. Some of the strongest, wisest, and most impactful people have walked through immense hardship. What they endured did not destroy them. It shaped them. When a child is learning to walk, there are moments when it stumbles, when it reaches out but does not immediately feel the guiding hand it expects. Yet the parent is never far away, watching, ready to step in if necessary, but also knowing that the child must learn to take steps on its own. The temporary struggle does not mean neglect. It is part of the process of growing stronger. If the parent carried the child at every moment, the child would never develop the ability to walk. There are seasons in life when struggles feel overwhelming, when answers seem distant, and when hope feels fragile. It is in these moments that we must remind ourselves that silence is not the same as absence. The night sky may appear empty, but the stars are still there, even when clouds hide them from view. A ship may not see the lighthouse in a storm, but that does not mean the light has stopped shining. Just because we cannot immediately see the purpose in our pain does not mean there is none. Pain has a way of sharpening our perspective. It strips away illusions, reveals what truly matters, and deepens our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It forces us to rely not on what is seen, but on what is deeper. It teaches endurance, patience, and resilience in ways that comfort never could. A person who has never faced struggle may live in ease, but they will never know the depth of their own strength. A life without trials is like a story without conflict. It may be pleasant, but it lacks meaning. Struggles also create connection. Pain allows us to understand the suffering of others in a way that mere observation never could. A person who has never known hardship may offer sympathy, but a person who has walked through pain can offer empathy. They do not just see another suffering, they feel it. They can speak words that carry weight not just because they understand the theory of struggle, but because they have lived it. Some of the deepest friendships, the strongest communities, and the most profound acts of kindness come from those who have faced difficulty and chosen to use their experience to uplift others. It is natural to want struggle to end quickly to seek immediate relief. No one enjoys pain, uncertainty, or hardship, but some of the greatest transformations happen in the waiting, in the pressing, in the moments when we feel most stretched beyond our limits. A caterpillar inside its cocoon may feel trapped, but without that struggle, it would never develop the strength to fly. The process is not cruel, it is necessary. If struggle meant abandonment, then there would be no growth, no depth, no transformation. But the very existence of struggle is proof that something is happening beneath the surface. The fire does not destroy the gold, it refines it. The darkness does not bury the seed, it nurtures it. The silence does not mean the journey is over. It means something new is about to begin. Life often feels unpredictable. We wake up with plans, expectations, and a sense of control over how things should unfold. Yet time and time again, we are reminded that so much happens beyond our understanding. There are moments when we feel lost, when circumstances seem unfair, when nothing appears to be working in our favor. In those times, it is easy to believe that nothing is happening at all, that we are stuck in place, waiting for something to change. But just because we cannot see movement does not mean there is none. The unseen hand is always working, shaping, guiding, and leading us in ways we may not comprehend until much later. Think of the roots of a tree. Above ground, everything may seem unchanged, still and unremarkable. But beneath the surface, where no one can see, the roots are growing deeper, anchoring the tree so that it can stand firm when the storms come. The same is true for us. Often, the most important work in our lives is happening beneath the surface, in ways we do not recognize at the time. Growth, change, and preparation do not always come with signs and signals. The quiet, hidden seasons of life are just as necessary as the ones filled with visible progress. Consider the way the ocean moves. Tides rise and fall with precision, guided by forces that the human eye cannot see. A traveler standing at the shore may only notice the water moving back and forth, but beneath the waves, currents are flowing, shaping coastlines, carrying life from one place to another. Just because something is unseen does not mean it lacks power. In the same way, our lives are being directed by forces beyond our comprehension. Even when we feel abandoned, when we question whether anything is happening at all, there is movement beyond what we can perceive. Many of the most significant moments in life do not reveal their meaning until much later. A door that closed in the past may have been the very thing that led to a better opportunity. A disappointment may have been necessary to build the resilience needed for a future challenge. What seemed like an unanswered prayer may have been protection from something unseen. The connections between events are often only understood in hindsight when we look back and realize that even the moments that felt like detours were actually part of the path all along. A child who is learning to walk does not always recognize the guiding presence of a parent nearby. There are times when the parent allows the child to take a few steps alone, to stumble, to find balance. From the child's perspective, it may feel like they are on their own, but the parent is never far away. They are watching, ready to step in if needed, but also allowing growth to happen through the process of struggle. Just because the child does not see the parent's hand at every moment does not mean it is not there. In the same way, we often do not realize how much we are being guided and supported until we look back and see the evidence of it in our journey. The most beautiful works of art are not created instantly. A painter begins with a blank canvas, adding layers of color and detail, often in ways that do not make sense to an observer at first. A sculptor chips away at stone, removing what is unnecessary, shaping something that only they can see in their mind. The process may look messy, incomplete, or even chaotic in the middle stages, but every stroke, every chisel mark, is part of the masterpiece being formed. Life often feels like that unfinished work of art. In the moment, we see only fragments, and sometimes those fragments feel random, painful, or out of place. But when the full picture is revealed, we begin to understand that nothing was wasted. Every experience, every challenge, every unexpected turn was shaping us into something greater. In moments of waiting, it is easy to believe that nothing is happening. We want instant answers, immediate change, visible signs that things are moving forward. But patience is often where the deepest work takes place. A seed does not sprout the moment it is planted. It remains hidden in the soil, taking in nutrients, growing roots, preparing for the moment when it will finally break through the surface. If someone did not know better, they might look at the ground and assume nothing was happening. But beneath that soil, in the unseen places, something is coming to life. Life is full of unexpected turns. There are times when what we planned falls apart, when we are faced with difficulties,